Hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Illuminating the Stories That Bind Us. In this series, psychotherapist Jennifer H. Carey interviews and helps applicants illuminate a story that is binding them. Applicants can choose to write in a letter or be a participant on the podcast and be interviewed. Both anonymous and both give you the opportunity to voice a limiting story and watch it begin to dissolve. We can all heal, learn, and grow from listening to how the beliefs and stories we create can consciously and subconsciously run our lives, binding us and holding us back. This season, Jen collaborates with singer-songwriter Shannon Ward, who is also co-founder of Fiercely Peaceful and Love Inside Out Now. Shannon is on a mission to help people remember who they are, and she has carried that mission with her as an artist, playwright, healer, and co-facilitator of retreats. She's worked on the WOW stage with Jen and with Mick and Tess Pulver from Breakthrough Performance. At the end of each podcast, Shannon and Jen will prescribe a song for the participant to help them transform beyond the limiting story they are telling themselves. Together, let's listen and shine light so we can break through and step forward into our unlimited potential.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Illuminating the Stories That Bind Us podcast. This is season 2, and we are on episode number 9. And I know for a fact that you will leave today's episode with so much more. We have a star, a resilient star, as our guest today. Her name is Nisha Kishore, and I have to say that when I first connected with Nisha in our pre-interview, she just immediately had this way, the smile and her laugh and just her way, just one of those people that just brightens up the moment, and you can just feel the love through her smile and through her words. And I really believe that's exactly what will happen today. And see, it's right there. I feel it. There it is. See, everybody, there you have it. She has an incredible journey that I'm really excited to be able to share here. She has stories that you think would have held her back, but they haven't. She has stories that she's broken through around shame, around guilt. There are stories of LGBTQIA discrimination, which again is something I don't think we talk about enough. And so I'm so grateful that we're going to be illuminating stories like that. So thank you, Nisha, for bringing that. Nisha has had challenges with identity misalignment. She, at one point, you'll hear along her journey, broke through and overcame stories and experiences in a psychiatric hospital after having some suicidal ideation. So she is just this resilient soul and light that has overcome all of those stories. And it has a book out called I Am, a Journey of Self-Liberation. So I Am, a Journey of Self-Liberation, which kind of just that title encompasses all that she wants to bring today and to everyone through her work. So I think that is the best way I can introduce her. I feel like it's time to just dive in and just listen to her story. So Nisha, thank you so much for your courage and for coming on here today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind introduction, Jen. It's really an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. And I'm grateful we connected because of JP Horgan. You heard me on the podcast with him, and then you reached out to me, and as soon as I just saw like your brief description, I was like, yes, I want her on this. I want her on here. So yes. So where would you like to begin? Do you want to begin as a child? Where I trust in where you feel led to begin. Any part of your story is pretty incredible. So dive right in and tell us about you.
For sure. I feel led to start when I was about 14 years old, and I started experiencing attraction towards other women. I grew up in central Illinois. I'm also Indian, and I didn't know any queer people who looked like me. And even then, hardly any queer people at all. At that time in my city, there wasn't really hardly any resources. And I remember just feeling a lot of shame and a lot of awkwardness. So for instance, I was on the swim team in high school, and I remember feeling weird in the girls' locker room, and all the other girls would go into the main locker room and they would change together, and I would go into a single stall bathroom and I would change on my own, right? And I think a lot of girls kind of didn't know what that was like about. A couple girls kind of teased me a little bit, couldn't tell if it was playful or if they really meant it, but there was something that was kind of happening within me that I just didn't really know how to describe or put words to. Fast forward a handful of years later, I get into student theater in college. I love theater. I still do to this day. It was just a way to explore being in different worlds and being different identities. I remember the first theater role I had was actually senior in high school, and I was actually cast as a man, which is the lead role for that play. And I just loved being a different perspective and seeing life through a different persona. I started to experiment and explore a little bit more around queerness and what that could mean. And I actually ended up going by a different name, Zadian, and using different pronouns, typically they, them, theirs, or he, him, his. I was kind of identifying as trans, masculine, non-binary. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to medically transition. I actually ended up not medically transitioning. I spoke with my doctor and it wasn't a good fit for me. But I felt like there was something about me that wasn't a woman and that was more of a man, and then there was something that felt good about being a woman too, but maybe not the kind of woman that I thought I had to be. Maybe there was something else that needed to be explored. And so I remember that season of being Zadian, maybe 2 to 3 years, was some of the most freeing and challenging times of my life. It was freeing because it was an invitation that I gave myself to totally break the narrative of who I thought I had to be and just reinvent myself and be a new person. I remember before being Zadian, I had seen myself as kind of a more shy, quiet girl who was very diligent and hardworking and studious. And I do think that those qualities are true, but I think that Zadian was kind of a breakout of just this audacity and joy and theater and art and more outspokenness and conviction about what one believes. And I remember just being very, very convicted about who I was and injustices I felt in the world, and was a little opinionated, not gonna lie. I wasn't always right, but there was something about just like a willingness to take a stance that I thought was really cool about that time. It was also challenging because I mentioned earlier how I kind of did feel like a woman, but not, fully. I think what happened also when I became Zadian is I missed the more feminine aspects of myself too. And I was like, well, what's going on? Am I non-binary? Am I gender fluid? Like, what am I? How I describe myself. And so I ended up spending a bit of time in therapy. I had 2 therapists who I still am seeing today. And one is an art therapist and one is, I'm smiling as I'm thinking about him because he's meant so many things to me, but he's also very dynamic, just very, very skilled therapist. Fun fact, my books are in his therapy office now, just saying.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a full circle. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, it's good. And they helped me see how, as much as, and I'm fully speaking just from my own experience, I'm not the poster child for anyone or anything like that. This is just me. Yeah. That on the one hand, exploring Zadian and being Zadian was a source of liberation and playful and awesome. And on the other hand, it was also a way to bury further shame. That I actually had shame around being Nisha, and I was able to just keep burying that by just throwing Nisha away and being someone else. And I actually write about the scene in my book in a conversation with my art therapist, where I actually went back to being Nisha. And I said to her, man, I miss being Zadian. And she said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I just feel like Zadian was brave and bold and confident and Nisha isn't. And she's like, well, like, what do you mean? You're like the same person. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it just like was this realization of like, oh, like, I think that I've kind of been siphoning myself off instead of integrating myself. And so I basically ended up going on this journey, which I call self-liberation, which really I think could also be renamed as self-integration, because I think liberation and integration are more or less the same thing. I think that we accidentally put ourselves in bondage when we try to siphon our own selves off. So for instance, I remember in my freshman year of college, like you mentioned, I ended up in a psychiatric ward for suicidal ideations. And I write about this in the book too, just being taken there by the campus ambulance and being in the ER. And it was just, it was so tumultuous. Like I had no idea what was happening or what was going on. And I felt the least amount of agency over my life. And I wonder now, if I had the emotional intelligence back then that I do now, I think I would have recognized that there's a deep feedback I'm experiencing in my life and that I'm not currently experiencing joy and fulfillment. And hence I'm turning towards, let's say, suicidal ideations, right?
Yeah.
And now I see that, oh, that's a call to action, not a call to put things away and escape, you know? And so, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to integrate. It's hard to love yourself. But that is what makes it actually so much more rewarding and actually that much more liberating. You know, I know I've gotten to a point where I realize that I have my own affirmations and I'm proud of myself. I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I'm really proud of what I've accomplished. For instance, I published a book. I'm earning an MBA at University of Chicago Booth School of Business, which is currently ranked #1 in the country.
Amazing.
And I actually received, like, I have a really, really strong relationship with my dad, and he has told me he's proud of me, and he's told me he's proud of me before. But it's sat differently now because that's like, wow, like I fully receive that praise. And I know you're proud of me. I know you've been proud of me, but at the same time, I almost don't need him to be proud of me. You know, it's like, I'm proud of me too.
Yeah.
For, I would say anyone, if anyone's like, wow, Nisha, like, great job. Like I fully receive it. I receive the praise. And at the same time, yeah, I know I'm being true to myself. I know I'm doing something great too.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the cherry on top. Like you already know you're the wonderful ice cream sundae, you know, but like the compliment from your dad is just kind of like little cherry on top, and you receive it because you already know it. You already know it.
Yeah.
Wow, Nisha, there's so many layers to your story, right? Like so many trailheads that we can go down from that experience in, you know, when you were 14 in the girls' locker room, like that alone, the fact that you are of Indian descent and the layer of that, combined with some of the gender identity or attraction, with then just what you said about getting to a point, like I love just everything that you were saying about like integration and getting to a point where Zadian and Nisha, and tell me, you can be like, those aren't the right words, Jen, but are like became both accessible. Like they were both within you. Yeah. Zadian and Nisha both exist within you. And even though you were trying to like separate them, they actually, you can find the courage of Zadian while you can find, you know, the studiousness of Nisha. Like they all exist within.
Yeah, kind of. I think it was realizing that, oh, wait, I'm the same person. Like it was kind of like a duh moment. And like these things that I would like carry all this blame and shame for like no reason. And then I think sometimes I would almost take things over the top a little bit. So for instance, like with Zadian, I mentioned maybe sometimes I was too opinionated or maybe I was a little bit too, you know, and so I think that other side of me was like, actually, no, let's bring it back in. Like it's awesome to have values. It's awesome to live by them, but like helping develop that social awareness. And then part of me that had just seen myself as like studious and hardworking, it's like, well, first of all, it's actually great. Like, it's great to be hardworking. And then also let's awaken that. Like, what do you actually want to work hard at? Not just working hard for the sake of working hard because you're in school, but because you actually have a dream that you want to accomplish, you know? So I don't even call them Zadie and Nisha anymore. I think that it was almost like a cool model that I needed in my early 30s. Sorry, not early 30s, 20s. I'm 26 at the time of this recording. I don't know why I said 30s.
Well, you are an old soul, Nisha. You do have an old soul.
But yeah, I just see myself as me, right? Multidimensional, multimodal, and just being able to access all these different parts of myself while keeping them balanced and in harmony, you know?
Well balanced and in harmony. Absolutely. And you know, there's two other things I want to speak to, and that's that you were able to use theater as a way to like express the different parts that may not have been at the forefront. And so then you had this opportunity to, like you said, feel free, even though it was challenging as well. And even though it was to an extreme, which by the age of 26, you've been able to balance, which is phenomenal. I'd say it was a couple more decades for me. But, and then the fact that you said, yes, you had this very isolating experience, you know, thinking of you in the ambulance, to be hospitalized. And if you had the emotional intelligence, right, to almost integrate again the suicidal part, which I love calling it a part. I think there's many of us that have a suicide, right? When there's just certain moments where it's like, I can't handle this anymore, right? But using that part instead, if I heard you correctly, as a signal that there's a need for joy or fulfillment, like that part now has a new role.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even feel like that's really a part for me, or I don't know, or maybe it's just like this drive I have innately now to just focus on values like joy and like fulfillment. I love being alive. And I love every breath. I have this ancient Sanskrit poem that I got from my grandpa, sitting there on the floor, and it basically talks about like looking therefore to this day. Like, it has like all the joy, all the beauty, like today well lived makes yesterday a happy memory and tomorrow a vision of hope. And yeah, I mean, everything's is amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Fulfillment right now.
Yes. Yeah. No. And I see that and I feel that from you. And that I think in our pre-interview, I talked about this a little bit, and I think you said one of your therapists uses internal family systems, and I just love it because of the language of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the languages of it is that we have these roles, and I always like to talk because of stories, right? I believe like these roles carry stories or narratives, and when they're healed and reintegrated, they can have a completely different role. So like it makes sense that I heard you say like, I don't even know if I have a suicidal part, right? Because like it has a whole new role in your system. It's just integrated in a whole new way.
Yeah. Kind of like energy repurposing itself or energy transmuting or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, even I would like to disclose that. So when I do these podcast interviews to our listeners, you know, I like to give the guest what I'm going to say as an introduction. And I'm not going to share, but I sent my introduction to Nisha, and it was so beautiful because Nisha was like, that wording, not so much that wording, not so much that wording. And what I felt, I don't even want to say it because it feels like they're just stories that don't even resonate. Like, and I don't even know if they ever did, but I feel like, Nisha, you are someone who really lives that transmutation or that transformation. And I still can't believe you're only 26, but like in those 26 years, you've just had so much experience, but you've landed in such a balanced, harmonious, loving, compassionate, I would even say forgiving. I don't know if that's an okay word to use, but just kind of like forgiving the stories, forgiving the discrimination, forgiving the, you know, some of those things. But tell me how that lands for you.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is there anything, like, either from your book or your journey, or even like your expressive arts, that you feel you could share with anyone that is experiencing being bound by either identity misalignment or any discrimination, that you feel like moved to share to help them break through those stories?
For sure. So two things come to mind. One is the artwork itself. So I created all the art in the book, including the front cover.
Oh,
And
cool.
I feel like a lot of the artwork speaks to both the liberation and the chaos that's in the book. So, for instance, the cover itself is this eye. So it speaks to me like insight and wisdom and clarity. And there's some scenes that are very chaotic, such as an instance where I accidentally / potentially intentionally like injured myself a little bit while shaving. And it goes through in the chapter where part of me was like, oh, I meant it. And a part of me was like, no, I didn't mean it. And the artwork there's like chaotic. And then there's others where it's more calm and gentle. And I even painted my higher power and have that in the book too. So I know that the print version, the color is in black and white. The paintings are in black and white except for the cover itself. The ebook version has the paintings in color. So I recommend readers get both the ebook and the paperback if they're interested, because the ebook allows you to have the paintings in color.
Okay.
Paperback allows you to write and use it as a journal, because I also include like reflection questions at the end of each chapter. That's where my mind went. The second thing I thought of was actually a poem that I wrote in the book. I can go grab it if
I would love that.
Cool, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, this is pretty telling because I remember we had just spoken about parts transforming. So in this chapter, let's see, this is chapter 10 in case anyone.
Okay.
There was forgiveness that I went through based on someone who had hurt my friend. And then I had some intense thoughts of anxiety arise. So I'll just read it for you if that's okay.
Yes.
A few weeks later, intense thoughts of anxiety arose while I was at work. How could this be, I wondered. I experienced an amazing spiritual revelation, and it's been 7 years since I was in a psychiatric hospital. I took deep breaths to refocus, but my efforts were unsuccessful. I decided to take my lunch break early and explore what wanted to be expressed. I centered myself through meditation and asked, what's happening within me? Is there something that wants to be healed? I saw an image of my 14-year-old self in the shower before her 8th grade graduation, who yearned to know if she was enough. And that's when I accidentally hurt myself with the razor. I realized the higher power within me a few weeks ago. Now it was time to activate her. I connected with the younger version of myself and truly allowed myself to feel the pain in her eyes. She was confused, conflicted, angry, and full of shame that wasn't hers to carry. I told her she didn't need to carry shame for accidentally harming herself, and I realized she needed true unconditional love that I could provide her now. As we cried together, I realized the pain was no longer something we needed to bear. We could surrender it and experience freedom. During this process, I realized that surrender was an empowering action that gave us grace. I loved myself so much in that moment that it felt like eternity. Now that we're released from the past, who do you want to be now? I asked my 14-year-old self. Without hesitation, she told me, I want to be love. I want to love myself so deeply that I'll never have to question it again. And I want to love others the same. That's a wonderful thing to be, I told her. Without thinking, I wrote this poem. When you're truly your best friend, there's no endgame, there's no destination, there's no contradiction, there's no obligation, there's no predetermination, there's no battle, and there's no withholding of blessings. Love is the ultimate manifester. Love is what writes us all. Love is the reason the stars shine. Love is the truth within. Love is the journey unfolding. Love is the truth that sets us free. Love creates miracles beyond imagine, such as you and I. Love invites us to shine. Love is the beauty and wonder. Love is completely and magically incredible. Love is gratitude. Love is hope. Love is stillness. Love is the miracle of life. As I kept writing, I realized I was love. Love was freedom, and freedom was love. I had all the beautiful qualities I was writing. I wiped the tears from my face as I sat up and took a few deep grounding breaths, as I realized what had been true all along. I am freedom.
Wow. Wow. What a marked moment. Like, what a marked moment. And I love the idea of that, like you said, just best friend with self. And that's kind of like, that's it. That's the pillar. That's the love that you stand on. That's the, those lines. I have a burning question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever falter in that relationship with your best friend? Does it ever, or like since that marked moment, have you like never faltered, and like that just love of self is just so strong and steadfast?
Faltered meaning start to like hate myself?
Yeah, or like just anything that could creep in, like a doubt or a fear or something that would get in the way of that.
Well, sure. I mean, just because one loves oneself doesn't mean that they'll never experience doubt or fear again. We're all human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if someone made that claim where they never experienced fear or doubt, I would question if they're doing something very worthwhile with their life. Because I think that inherent in taking challenges by the reins and doing something difficult, I think it's normal and natural to feel doubt. It's normal and natural to feel fear, because I think that those emotions are actually indication of true aspiration. But I think the difference is that the person who has a healthy relationship with themselves knows how to seek help or coach themselves through it. I typically just coach myself through it, but if I need to talk to someone, I have my therapist and I have my best friends. Or I paint about it or journal about it. But at the end of the day, there's also just a healthy level of recognition and acceptance that, yeah, I'll do a challenge. Yeah, I'll make mistakes. Yeah, I might fail, but I'm okay. And why did I choose to do this challenge in the first place? Because it aligns with my vision, my values, now, in terms of like, have I felt the desire to like injure myself or, suicidal ideations? The answer is no.
No, so not at all. No. Yeah. No, I'm not getting that off you at all. But I really, really appreciate you just sharing how there were so many gems in what you just said. Let me just see if I can reflect them. So one was like, if we're not experiencing any kind of doubt or fear, like we might want to check ourselves and just see if like we're not stepping outside our comfort zone and really aligning with what we really want to do. Brilliant. Then just kind of paraphrasing the idea that like you have the tools, not only the relationship with yourself, which is super strong, but you have this relationship with your therapist, you have the relationship with your best friend or other support system, you have this relationship with art, and journaling and writing, combined with, I'm sure, all of your other spiritual muscles and strength that you've gained. And that helps you, that when you hit those moments of doubt or fear, it doesn't shake you. You may get a little tremble, and that just reminds you that something needs to be healed, and you carry on.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's kind of like the image that came to my mind was a mountain. So for instance, if you think of the doubt or fear as some sort of turbulence on the mountain is strong, right? So the mountain knows how to be true to itself. The mountain knows how to continue and be okay despite the fear and the doubt. I think the person who is not self-led perhaps will get blown over by that fear, blown over by that doubt, and then maybe been sucked into it further and spiral. Which, by the way, I've been there before. Like I've spiraled before, and I think I have just become better at having my eye on the horizon. I think life became a lot easier when I started to get very clear about who I am and what my vision, my values are. I think about a sailor on a ship, right? The sailor is going to encounter waves. It's not a question. If it's going to happen, it will happen. The sailor knows where they're going. If the sailor can identify true north and the horizon and is aware of navigation, then they will be okay. But the sailor that doesn't know where they're going, the sailor who doesn't really know how to navigate the tools that they have access to, they might get knocked over by the waves.
Yes. Yeah. Great metaphors. Great metaphors.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You're such an inspiration, Nisha. How can people get your book? What is the best way? I know you mentioned getting an ebook and a hard copy. They both have benefits. What's the best way for them to get it?
For sure. Amazon would be the best way.
Okay.
Yeah, Amazon.
Amazon. All right.
I can give you the Amazon link if you want to include it in the podcast.
Oh, definitely. And we'll have that included on everything. I think I'm going to go get it. I'm torn because I am a journaler. I love to journal. So I might have to do both, but I'm really excited to see the colors and the art that you use. It sounds very, it sounds incredible. So.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else still open, Nisha, or does that feel complete?
I guess the last thing I'd want to share with anyone who's listening is that you can do it. Whatever challenge you're facing, anything you're going through, if there's a mountain you're trying to climb and you feel like it's too tough, I believe you can do it. And I think the question you need to answer for yourself is, do you believe that you could do it? And do you realize that you have what it takes within you to succeed?
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nisha, for everything you shared today. And thank you all you listeners for listening. And may you pass on this beautiful, beautiful wisdom from Nisha Kishore.
Thanks so much, Jen. It's been a total pleasure, and it's been an honor to be here.
Yes. Thank you. You're so welcome. My pleasure and honor as well.
If you'd like to be a participant on Illuminating the Stories That Bind Us, please fill out the form on jenniferhcarey.com. Jennifer would like to thank every single person that makes this possible, including all of the listeners. Because of you listening and sharing these stories, we may illuminate them and unbind the participants stuck in them. And to the participants, your courage and bravery makes this possible. Thank you. A million thank yous to Cassie Brooks Bowling and her team in making this mission come alive and keep it breathing. You can follow Jen at Jennifer H. Carey on Instagram and on Facebook at Jennifer H. Carey Counseling.